Hey everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things Florida real estate on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I have Henry, the powerhouse Angeli in the Jacksonville, Florida investor market. He is the man when it comes to understanding the whole investor world. He's been doing it for about 4 years now. He was in the military. Now he's full-time real estate investor. He is crushing the game. He's got all the tools, all the tricks. He knows what to do when it comes to locking up the deals, what those deal killers are, and where to go when he has those issues, and where you can go, and he'll tell you where those great options are out there. But on the show with Henry, we're going to talk about the memorandum that Henry loves to record when it comes to these sellers or any situation where somebody backs out of the deal. We're going to talk about unlawful detainer versus eviction and what that difference is, but what it means to Henry, because there was a case that he learned from where there was a difference. Many people don't know what that even is. Of course, we're going to talk about probate because Henry knows there's no way we can get off the show without talking about probate. But some of the other amazing little things that you wouldn't think of when it comes to the investing world, Henry is knowledgeable about it. And that is private lending from the IRA, using a business card, getting something where you have no interest, and he'll dive into all of that, but the importance of relationships to make a deal go smoothly with clients. And hopefully we can cover this too, Henry, why picking the right title company matters and making sure you have the right team surrounding you. So without further ado, Henry, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Al. Really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, when I was reaching out to you, I'm like, I gotta have Henry on the show. Like, if there's anybody that can put so much value out there for the investors, especially how passionate you are. You're always on Facebook, you're always on the social media outlets, you're always responding to people. And I think that the more you're out there in the community, you're a learner. You just learn all the time. You want to know more and more. And I think people are going to benefit so much just starting out or maybe seasoned from some of these things that you've seen. So for those of you that don't know Henry, please tell everybody, who's Henry? What were you doing beforehand? And what are you doing now?
Okay, guys. Well, my name's Henry Angeli. I own a real estate investing firm called Henry Buys Homes, LLC. It's based in Jacksonville, Florida, and I primarily invest in Duval, Clay, Nassau, and St. Johns counties in Northeast Florida. What do I do exactly? I do a bunch of different things. I invest in flips, rental properties. I'm also a real estate agent who does retail listings. I do as-is listings, and then I also do what's called wholesaling, which is essentially selling a contract on a property to another investor. So I wear quite a few different hats when it comes to the real estate industry, and I do that because it gives me a lot more options to present to sellers as to how they can sell a property that they have a problem with or they just don't want to keep for whatever reason it is. So I know a lot of people sometimes in the industry they like to laser focus on one strategy. I think that's really good if you're going to scale and you're really, really good at it. For me, I like having multiple options because I can turn a lot more leads into more revenue opportunities. So little background on me: before I got into the real estate game, I was actually working at JEA, which is Jacksonville Electric Authority, which is the utility company here in Jacksonville, Florida. Worked there for about, how long was I there? About 11 years. I was a risk analyst. That was the very last position I got before I resigned, 3 years ago now, which is hard to believe. I got that position after I got my master's in business administration, promoted into that position because I was kind of burnt out from the prior position I was in maintenance. I did power plant maintenance as an instrumentation and controls technician. And then I was an operator at one of the sister plants before that. And that was the very first job I got out of the Navy back in 2006. I was in the United States Navy in the submarine force from July 2001 to July 2006, picked up a lot of electrical background there, a lot of leadership training. And that's where I actually got the GI Bill so I could go to college. I went to college for free, basically. Got a got the master's and bachelor's, completely debt free. So that's kind of my background. Before that, I was in college for a year before I decided to give that a break. I mean, gosh, it's crazy. I was in the workforce for 20 years before I decided to go into the entrepreneurial route. And I can tell you that was the best decision I ever made. It's also the most difficult and scariest decision I've ever made in my life, to go from 20 years of getting a steady paycheck to, oh crap, it's all on me to figure out how I'm going to get paid next. But at the same time, that risk comes with a reward. Your opportunities are limitless now. You're not limited to the same paycheck. So that's just a quick and dirty background on me. But I'm really excited to share more details in the investing side and just different crazy things that we've encountered so far.
Oh, we're going to dive in those for sure. So Henry, when you were at JEA and you were in the military, like what was that first thing you saw with real estate that piqued your interest, and got you motivated to learn, get educated, and read or watch videos to then take it to a level of, I can start approaching a seller, I can start listing these properties? What was that moment that really moved you to the next level? Was it the idea of independence and you just being the leader that you are, that you just wanted that entrepreneurial mindset? Or was it the fact that you just realized that the corporate world wasn't going to make you that money and that this was going to be an opportunity for you to grow and build a real estate empire?
Yeah. So that inspiration started from me actually 2006 when I first started with JEA. I picked up the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A friend recommended it to me, and it was a very motivational book. So I started looking into real estate at that time, but I didn't really take it very seriously, the inspiration I got at the time. That inspiration actually came 10 years later when I saw an ad on Facebook from another real estate investor who's very successful out west. I saw his ad, and it was an ad about, hey, how you can buy real estate with no money, very little risk. And actually what he was talking about was wholesaling. So I bought his course for $500. I learned everything I could about real estate, how contracts work, basic contract law, real estate law, all that good stuff. And then he recommended that I get a mentor, a local mentor. And so I did exactly that. I followed his recommendations, got a local mentor who had been an investor for many years, did everything from general contracting to real estate broker to appraiser, had experience in rental properties and renovations, just an incredible experience for what I got out of a mentor. And the best part is that mentor didn't charge me anything. I said, what's your inspiration, or what is your motivation for helping me out? And he said, well, motivation is you list the properties with me when you go and flip them. So he gets paid a commission. But the great thing about that is it's not like a vulture type approach to me. It's somebody that's willing to partner with you and mentor you, and like genuinely add some great value to you without asking for money up front. To me, that's like the best mentor you can get. Bring them an opportunity, and it's going to pay you back over the long term. So, and so that's kind of how I got started. I kind of stumbled into it. I think like a lot of people do, I stumbled into that. I actually started out flipping and wholesaling, but I was more successful at flipping first, having the mentor, because wholesaling is a little more difficult. Believe it or not, it's a little more difficult than doing the flips, because you really got to be a good negotiator. You really got to know where to look for those types of deals that have enough meat on the bone to sell to another investor. So, so having a mentor, that was huge, getting me started, just kind of showing me the ropes, how real estate works, what are you looking for when you're trying to find a deal, how you approach a renovation, how you estimate repairs, all that good stuff. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to flipping and renovating. And then
are you doing
beyond
flipping now?
Yes, I am. We still are very selectively. I'm doing more rental properties now, more buy and holds, because I really love the ongoing revenue opportunity, the tax benefits. You have huge tax shelters when you have rental properties. You got depreciation. If you buy a deal cheap enough, you can do a cash out refinance with a lender, and you can get all that money back plus more than what you invested in. It's all tax free because it's a loan. IRS cannot tax a loan. So there's so many beautiful benefits of rental properties if you know what you're doing. There's always going to be problems. You're going to have problem tenants if you don't screen them properly. And so that's like a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Um,
But I feel like when it comes to the wholesale side of it and to the real estate listings and talking with sellers, I don't know why. I get a feeling that your background with the military kind of helped propel you into that role, that like taking confidence, control of it, and really bringing out that we can make this happen. This is how we can do it. Did that translate at all? Because I have guests on many times, and they say that their whole background really propelled them to do what they do today in that wholesale field for you. There's got to be some connection there.
yeah, I think so. I mean, in the military, we have to improvise a lot. We got to figure stuff out. There's not always people available to help. And so, man, in real estate, I mean, it is very beneficial to have mentors, but if you also are not a self-starter, you do not self-initiate, pursuits of whatever it is that you want to do in real estate or anything in general. If you're not a self-starter and you're not, you don't have that motivation to really like push forward, even though you're going to encounter obstacles. I mean, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you if you don't have that mind, if you don't get that mindset. It took me a while to get there too, because, when you're in the workforce and you're not an entrepreneur role, it's a completely different mindset. You're used to getting like the paycheck every couple of weeks or however often you get paid. And so you don't really have to fight to make the money, right? You don't, it's like you get paid by the hour, and you show up for 40 hours or whatever it is a week. And you get paid no matter what, no matter, it's to me, it was nice, the security, but it was super limiting, because no matter how hard I worked, I'm still getting paid the same, and me, like, I'm a grinder. I'm willing to do a bunch more work if I'm going to get paid a bunch more, and I have the opportunity to add a bunch more value to people. It's just the compensation is just a bonus of that, really.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. And
Yeah.
short answer.
Well, yeah, but I could just tell that background and what you were doing, and even if it was corporate world, it just propelled you to like now that leadership entrepreneurial mindset. So Henry, about the mentorship stuff, like you found a good mentor. How did you know they were the mentor that you needed? Like what were those qualities that you were kind of looking for that helped you get to that level of being able to flip, being able to do these contracts on your own, being able to do the listings on your own? It's not easy, right? Like you have to
Right.
find the right fit, the right mesh to make all of this work together. And so many people and investors that are new, they're trying to say, oh, I'm looking for a mentor. They'll go to Pat Flynn, right? They'll say, hey, Pat, I heard you got the Peapod strategy. What's the Peapod? But as you know, a lot of people say they want to do something and then they don't do it. And you have to have that mindset too, that you want to take it to the next level. You want to take that step to do things. But how did you know that mentor was right for you?
That's a great question. So what I was honestly, when you're newer, you don't really know what you're looking for yet. So you're looking for any opportunity. Believe it or not, I stumbled upon him on Craigslist. He was advertising a property, and I think he was also advertising like, hey, free seminars on investments or something like that. I don't even remember how. Honestly, I don't remember all the details. It's funny, but I stumbled upon him on Craigslist and gave him a call, and I found out he had all this experience. Former general contractor, former appraiser, was a current broker. Believe it or not, he got hit pretty big back in 2008. Financial crisis kind of crushed him. He wasn't really approaching investment the right way at the time, so there was a lot more risk for him. That's kind of why he got hit big. But he was a killer mentor for experience purposes. He had a lot of experience. He's been through it, and so that's kind of what I was looking for. And then the fact that he wasn't asking for any kind of compensation up front, that was huge to me, because, obviously when you're new, you're very scared too. There's a lot of fear that can play into that. There's a lot of risk. You're taking big risks with money and opportunities, and you don't know if you're going to make it or not.
Right. Yeah.
So having somebody kind of hold your hand, and the opportunity for them to get value out of it is there on the back end later on. That's huge. And not, there are people out there like that will still do that. You just got to really find them and build those relationships. I think I just got lucky. I didn't have the relationships built at the time yet. So I believe God puts people in your path somehow for a reason, that was my way. That's my way he got me into the industry.
Great. Yeah. And so many people, everything happens for a reason, right? So when, you're approaching situations and opportunities, and you never know when that path or where that path is going to take you. And now look at you now. I mean, 4 years into the whole real estate game, and it's just, you're
Yeah.
killing it. You're crushing it. You're doing what you need to do. And especially in Jacksonville, a huge market for you. But Henry, one of the things you just said was very important, which is something you wanted to talk about, which was the importance of relationships to make a deal go smoothly with clients, not just with clients, but even the whole community as a whole. When you're trying to build relationships with lenders, appraisers, title companies, whoever, people that you want to JV with, it doesn't matter. There's an important side to building those relationships that will help you, because it's not just it's team. So what is that importance to you and that real estate community feel to your business and where your business is headed?
Yeah, I mean, networking is the biggest thing you can possibly do to build those relationships. I'll start with like private lenders. One of the ways I built my relationships with private lenders is I documented the process. I documented my success. Share what you're buying, share the stuff that you're buying, document the renovation, and then they can go and see for themselves, what you sold it for. And they see that you're making a profit, you're buying at good numbers. Those people are going to reach out to you and they want to lend to you. I have more private lenders than I really need right now because of it, but I documented the process. They see it. I share it on social media. People love that HGTV type stuff. They love seeing that before and after type stuff. People go ooh and ah over it. And then, other sellers are like, maybe I can sell to these guys. They know what they're doing. And, they're probably going to give me some kind of fair offer. And then private lenders, of course, see that too. So they want to work with you because they know they're going to get their money back if you're buying and selling right. So that's one way. Document the process. That's probably the biggest advice I could give to somebody new, especially if you're flipping or renting. Always document your start to finish and record that and share it so people can see it. And then go to every networking event you can find. Yellowbird Connect. I mean, that's where a lot of us met. I think I met you somehow on that forum.
100%.
Kyle and Pat. I do a lot of deals with those guys. We partner on stuff all the time. So we added a lot of value to each other. I used to go to some of the meetups. The yacht club. Obi Dorsey had actually started that. That's actually how me and Pat met. Me and Pat Flynn met. That was a long time ago. That's when
wow.
I think he and I first started out 4 years ago. That's the first time we had met. So I mean, just find your local real estate investor association and network with all those guys. You're going to find your buyers there. You're going to find, contractors, insurance people, lenders. I mean, you're going to find all these networking events. You keep going to them, you're eventually going to run into people that can add value to you and that you can add value to. There's going to be buyers there for stuff that you don't want to buy. Some people love certain neighborhoods, others don't. Some people want rentals. You might find your next buyer there of your wholesale deals, and then you're going to have an ongoing relationship there. So just get your name out there, get your face out there so people know who you are. They can put a face to you. And then, to start adding value and bringing opportunities to people. That's all you really need in this business. You don't need money, although it helps. You don't need experience. All you need is an opportunity. That's really it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And also the craziest part with COVID having happened is that we can't do any of the in-person stuff. So the only thing we are able to kind of do is either small groups or, have you on a video like I am now. It's like, this is going to be out there and people are going to go, wait, that's Henry. He was on the Facebook page. He had the video, he had the podcast, and people relate to things like that. Even when we go back to the in-person networking events, they see that you're knowledgeable, you grind. This is the niche that you do. There's an importance to face to name and being out there and top of mind. So the whole circle, it all comes together. And I'm a huge believer about building relationships with people. You never know. It could be the title companies. It could be the investors. It could be people that are out there that can help on the deals. Every underwriter is different. So title companies are pretty much that name of the game when it comes to that. But, you see so many different things, Henry. You see so many different contracts and so many different sellers and everything that happens. But there was one time during last year, or I don't even know if it was last year, it had to be early last year, when you encountered for your probably your first time in the real estate world, a situation where you had a deal, you were about to get under contract, but you found out that the person inside of there was just living in there. There was no lease, there was no nothing, and you were thinking,
Yep.
what is this whole deal? What is going on here? Like, what do we call this situation? And I remember you called me up. You're like, what is this whole thing? And I think for the first time, I don't know, maybe you tell me, we heard of unlawful detainer because everybody thinks eviction, right? Everybody uses the word eviction, ejectment, but there's certain meanings to what that is. It's not just a word that is thrown out there. And I love how you're on Facebook now when somebody says, "Oh, squatter," and somebody comments and they say eviction. You're like, "No, that's not an eviction. That's an unlawful detainer." So I love
Yep.
that you went through the whole experience. Tell everybody, what was that like? What happened there? What was that whole situation?
Okay. Yeah. So that one, I know exactly which one you're talking about. That was one of my earlier deals last year. I actually got that one over Christmas vacation. Seller called me on my website, said, "Hey, I got this property." It was actually down in Keystone Heights, Florida, way, way, way down there, but it was worth it for what I bought it for. And he said, "Yeah, I've got this property, I bought it and I was going to renovate it, keep it as a rental, but plans change, I need to get rid of it so I can get some money back out of it." So I said, "Well, okay, cool." Asked him some questions, typical questions, what does it need? What repairs, condition, all that good stuff. Is it vacant? And he said, "Yes." I said, "When can I go look at it?" And he said, "Yeah, you can go anytime, it's open." So went there, pulled up, and then I see the curtains rustling a little bit, like somebody's looking out. I was like, what in the world is going on here? I thought this was vacant. So I go knock on the door and somebody answers, and these people were, I guess, had broken in and living there. They were really nice, actually, believe it or not, but they were living there. I guess had broken in and moved themselves in, because they didn't have anywhere else to go. They didn't have running water. so
Wow.
so you can imagine. And so I went and looked at the property, got my pictures, just to see the condition and everything. And then I told him, I said, "That's fine. There's people there. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that. I'll buy it." Bought it at a great price. And I think before I closed on it, you and I had somehow connected at the time. And I said, "Hey, there's no lease here. And so I just can't, what do I need to do to get rid of these people lawfully, get them out?" And so you and I connected. You said, "Yeah, you can't do a standard eviction because you don't have a lease. You can't do it. Evictions only apply to leases. You got to do what's called an unlawful detainer suit." And so I hired you, and man, that was the best money I ever spent, best learning experience. You guys need somebody to do that for you in Florida, hire Al. He'll get it done. He's quick. And man, that was the best experience ever, man. It's so worth it when you hire somebody who knows what they're doing. They're fast. Just spend the money. It's worth it. It really is. It's going to save you the time and headache. And so, man, that was incredible. I put that one on the market and actually sold it to somebody I know. They reached out and said, "Hey, you still got that property? I want to buy it. Actually, I want to buy it and do some owner financing with it." And so sure enough, I took it off the market and they bought it from me. We had that one maybe a couple of weeks, and that was a quick profit, which those are my favorite. So
It was a fun situation too, because you get to
it was.
learn what those unique differences are with a squatter versus a tenant
Right.
versus they use the word ejectment so loosely. Ejectment doesn't mean ejecting somebody from a property. It has to do with maybe boundary lines or something like that, or deals with color of title. So it's interesting that you went through that experience because now you're knowledgeable about it. When you see this stuff online, you're able to help others and say, "Wait a second, that's not what an eviction is." Because eviction, it can be a written lease or it can be an oral lease. And
Yep.
that's when we were just like, is this an oral lease? Because if it's an oral lease, it's eviction. And there's no lease, there's no nothing. You have an unlawful detainer, there's a pure squatter in there. And it was just crazy about what do you do with the contents in the property? Like, things were really gray. Like, do you just leave it there? Do you just throw it out? Do you leave it in a box, like on the side, and you just write per statute 82, like this is all your stuff that's outside? So it's just, I was just such a great learning experience to go through things like that. And I appreciate all of that, Henry. It was just so much fun. Like, that's why we had to talk about it, because people don't go through that. Investors, they could be doing this for 10 years and never come across a situation like that.
Yep.
Rare that it happens. I think Miami, it doesn't happen as much as some place like Jacksonville. Jacksonville's developed, but like you still have a lot of houses out there that could be vacant. The water's turned off, electric's turned off. Miami's a little bit more populated. People are in those homes, so you don't really come across it that much. But it's a great experience for people to go through these things. You have to. And most importantly, you come across situations from time to time. I know you want to talk about this for sure. The memorandum thing that happens with sellers. What is all of that memorandum stuff that happens with contracts and sellers? What is that whole system? Because I'm not in the title game, so the title company game. So what is all of that?
Yeah, so it's not something I like to use very often. It's only in like dire circumstances where where sellers doing something shady and we've got money invested, in the due diligence side. You got earnest money put up, you've got money you spent on surveys, and you spend a lot of time on deals. That's when if I start feeling like there's something happening or sellers trying to back out or kind of screw us over in a sense, I'll file a memorandum of agreement. So what that is, it's called a memorandum of agreement, MOA, or also called an affidavit of equitable interest. And that's a document that you can sign yourself and you can file with the county, and basically it shows up on the title. It does what's called clouding the title. It shows up if another title company does a title search to try to close with another buyer. It's going to show up and they're like, whoa, you have this under contract with somebody else. We cannot close this deal with another buyer. This person has equitable interest in that property. They have a lawful right to buy that property with this contract they already have in hand. So that's the power of that document filed with the county. You do not need the seller's signature on it. There's a lot of different people have different opinions on whose signature is needed, whether or not you need earnest money deposited. There's a lot of different opinions. A lot of different attorneys will give you different answers on that. I've asked a lot. And it's funny how many different answers you will get. But that has protected me on several deals where the sellers were trying to say, oh, well, I've got a higher offer. I'm like, well, I've already got a contract on this and I've already spent money on due diligence. So I can't just like let you out of this deal now, or I'd be screwing myself over out of cash. So I don't use it very often. It's very rare, but every once in a while, sellers will do that stuff. They'll get multiple buyers involved and they'll contract their house to sell with multiple people. And then it just creates a whole mess, with other wholesalers. And, as much as that's aggravating the other wholesalers involved, now you have to work with them somehow because you kind of want to keep good relationships with them. You don't want bad blood on your hands, and, everybody's profit gets cut in 10 almost in some cases. So that's unfortunate. Some sellers will do that stuff, but that is the power of that document. It will protect your interest in that property, especially if you've got money invested into it before you've even closed on it. That's the power of that. It's a very powerful document. I would not recommend using it unless you know what you're doing and you have a good solid version of one, and you really understand what it means to do that, because you can bring litigation on you if you don't know what you're doing. You can't prove that you tried to perform on the property. If you can't prove that you have communication from texts and emails and phone calls, showing that you have tried everything in your power to close on this property and the seller has prevented it in whatever way, shape or form. So it's a very, very powerful document. A lot of people don't seem to know about, and I get asked about it all the time because I mentioned it on my YouTube channel actually, and a lot of people ask me, hey, can you send me a copy of that? I'd love to get one. So
yeah, I know you're a big proponent about talking about it. So, and your YouTube channel, what's the YouTube channel so everybody knows they can find all this good info of Henry?
Yeah, they can just find me on YouTube. It's Henry Buys Homes. Just type that in, you'll find my channel. Pretty simple.
So, Henry, I was while you were talking about it, maybe the memorandum's the answer, but how do you handle a situation mentally where you have that seller that says, oh, you're the first investor that's come across, and you sign the contract, and then later you find out they've signed like 3 or 4 other contracts with other investors? Like, what are you doing at that point? And you thought that there was something good. Now you have a situation where there's competing interests. How do you handle that?
Very honestly, just be very transparent with them. Said, look, I cannot, I cannot, this contract's no good between us if you have another contract that's valid in line before me. Technically they are obligated to perform with the very first contract that they signed with, if as long as it's not expired and it's still valid and that investor is trying to perform on that property. Otherwise, all the other contracts downstream of that first contract, they're no good. They shouldn't have signed them to begin with. And it's unfortunate some sellers are going to do that because they're creating a lot of problems for themselves. If all those people in line that have contracts on the property spend money on doing surveys or due diligence, they're spending money on inspections only to find out that the seller has one contract that's valid ahead of them, then that just creating a whole world of problems. Those people are probably going to either want their money back somehow, they're going to want their fees with the title companies paid for. So I recommend to sellers, don't do that. Only sign with one person. If you're listening to this, don't do that. You're bringing a lot of problems on yourself with litigation. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while you'll have some people that think, oh, it's my property, I can do whatever I want. I can sign with as many people as I want. First person to perform is the one that's going to get it. And that's not how it works. You sign a contract, that's a legally binding agreement. So don't do that. Do not do that to yourself.
How do you approach it with the title companies later on? Because what could happen is you have that situation happen in January, you do your thing with your memorandum, and then 8 months later, they find another buyer, or the seller finds another buyer, they go under contract, and they're finally like, yeah, we're going to make this happen. And then title gets pulled, title pulls back, they see Henry's there. What is that interaction like working with title companies in that moment?
It depends. It depends on it depends on a lot of things. Are the seller getting offered more? Even though I don't have to, I might increase my offer just a little bit to sweeten the pot for them. I don't have to do it, but it might put their mind at ease a little bit if they're trying to sell to somebody else. Sometimes they'll use the excuse, well, your contract's expired. I'll be like, yeah, but I've tried to perform within the time frame of that contract and you haven't allowed me to. So, it's case by case basis. It depends on who else is under contract. Is it somebody I know? Can I work with them? Can we partner somehow so that we both win? Everybody wins. It's really what we are as investors is we're money managers and we're problem solvers. We're there to solve real estate problems. That's what we do. So sometimes sellers are going to create bigger problems for themselves when they get multiple buyers involved, right? So how can you solve the problem together as a team? It's all about maintaining the relationships, even though that's going to be difficult sometimes. Some people are not very nice. Other investors can be mean. So it's a team effort though, try to make it a win-win for everybody as much as possible. You're not going to win them all. If somebody was in line before you, they have every right to that property first. My recommendation is follow up with that seller later on, move on to the next deal, go find another one. There's a lot of deals out there for us to find. You should always have multiple deals in your pipeline for that very reason. So you don't have one that you're depending on to close so you can do the next one. Just always be talking to many people at a time. That's my best recommendation with that.
Right. So I guess where there's a great signature question I have in my shows that is all about how are you building trust between you and the sellers to prevent all of that stuff from happening, and it's not just from doing it in the beginning, but it's also doing it the whole time and continuously. You have to do it from the beginning of the deal, throughout the deal to closing. So and Ron LeGrand said that it's not about building the trust, but it's about having the creative solutions and solving problems, just like you said.
Yep.
So that could be the answer. So how are you doing that when you approach these deals, whether you're listing, whether you're going there for just a straight up deal, or when you're dealing with other investors on the flips and the wholesale deals?
Yeah. So come from a position of service, ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions before we ever get anywhere near, hey, what do you want for it? Questions like, hey, yeah, I saw you called me, just wanted to call you back. What's going on with the property? Why do you want to sell? I mean, it's just having a conversation, really, be upfront with them, be transparent. Why do you want to sell? What's your goal? Is there any reason you don't want to fix this property up and get full retail value, maximize what you can get out of it? And then they're going to spill their guts to you and tell you why. That's when you're going to get your motivators. What are their motivations? Somebody died. they're an absentee or they're tax delinquent, there's a bunch of repairs needed on this property, they're facing foreclosure, all those things are going to come out when you come from a position of service. They're going to open up to you, and trust is part of it for sure. So that's the first part of the call. Ask questions, find out what it is that they're trying to get out of the property, and then present multiple options. Everybody comes in with a cash offer first. Present them multiple solutions, multiple ways they can get something out of it. If you got a number, they got a number in mind, try to get that out of them. Now, a lot of times they won't. They want to see what you're offering. So if they don't give me a number, I'll kind of give them a range, and then I'll present a bunch of options. Hey, you can do this. You can take a cash offer. It'd probably be around this. We can do an as-is listing, because I'm also a realtor. I'd be happy to do that for you. You're definitely going to get higher offers on the market, but you're going to have to deal with showings and inspections and maybe appraisals and all that stuff. So it's really a matter of what's their goal. Do they have a timeline? Do they have a certain amount of cash they want to get? Do they have a combination of both of those? Find out what their goal is, and then are they willing to do owner financing? Are they willing to let somebody take over the mortgage payment and give them some cash at closing? Right? There's a lot of ways to solve their problems depending on how much equity they got, what their goals are. So that's the best thing you can do. Have that conversation, come from a position of service, ask a lot of questions. It's all about them, just ask the questions and listen. That's really it.
Active listener, right? And there's nothing like listening to what they want, their needs, their concerns. What have they gone through in the past? What are they looking for now? The price, everything. When do they want to close? What's the problem? Maybe it's a title issue, right? Like you've seen that. You've seen it, whether it's probate or whether there's massive judgments, right? Like how, you have to be able to really talk to them and listen to their side of it, but at the same time, also explain, here's the good, here's the bad, setting expectations up front and communicating. It really boils down to the basics: communicating, following up, expectations up front. And you're a problem solver. So you want to see how this thing can get done. And I've seen it firsthand, right? When there's massive judgments, you are trying to do everything you can to figure out, can we do quiet title? Can we negotiate the liens? Maybe the somebody will write it off and they'll just say, hey, whatever interest I had, it's off. It's always about finding that plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and making it happen. And I think that so many times you just hear about it. It's like, you have to understand what they're looking for and communicate with them. And it's got to match, right? It's all about matching your interest with their interest. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's just business. But some don't see it that way. But it's all about building that core relationship and solving problems with them. So Henry, when it comes to those deals, and we'll talk about a little bit marketing wise, because I know you love the marketing, direct mail, it could be cold calling. What is one of those most important tips that you are doing to lock up those deals? Memorandum aside, because now you're going to get the deal. Like what is that tip or trick from Henry that those investors can take about converting that from that building relationship, building trust to actually now you have a contract, now you're going to bring it to closing?
Right. So I like a lot of inbound leads. I like inbound marketing because when they call you, it's a completely different conversation from versus you calling them or cold texting, whatever. So all of them work. I've done all of it. Cold calling, texting, social media ads. I've done all of it. But my absolute favorite are inbound leads, because it's just they need you versus you needing to buy their deal. Completely different. So one of the things that's made me more competitive than a lot of people is I'm fast. I'm very fast when it comes to offers. I've built my own estimator when it comes to repairs. I literally can plug in numbers and have an offer in 5 minutes. I do everything electronically if they are not old school. Sometimes you've got old school people, they like the old school paper, blue pen signature in person. They don't have a choice because they're just old school. They're not tech savvy, so they don't know how to do the electronic stuff. So that's fine. You got to improvise and adapt. Part of the business, right? But one thing I've gotten really good is locking up closing people on the phone. People need a solution fast. They want somebody who knows what they're doing and give them a solid number. And so I lock up most of my stuff over the phone. I don't even go see the property because I've got enough experience at this point. I know what my rehab numbers are going to be on the property based on the square footage and the year built and what's been permitted on the roof and AC, all that good stuff. So I've got a pretty good ballpark of where my numbers got to be, so that's how I get it. That's how I'm able to do that so fast and so competitively. I know what I should be at on the phone number wise before I ever even send them the contract. They either tell me yes or no, or I can counter this. And then I'm like, all right, well, we can do that. Done. So it just comes with experience. This is why I think it's great for wholesalers to get experience in flipping at some point, renovations, or even partnering with somebody so they can learn the repair side, because it's going to make you a better wholesaler. It's going to make you better at everything else, really. Some wholesalers learn it from watching other people or what people tell them it's going to cost, and that's pretty much the extent of their experience, but I do see a lot of bad wholesale deals out there because they just don't understand. They don't understand the true cost of a renovation budget, what a roof really costs per square foot, flooring, the neighborhood, what kind of finishes you put in the neighborhood, just a lot of things that go into that. So, but yeah, if you can get really good with your numbers, getting good at closing people on the phone, it's going to make you more competitive. But that makes a lot of people nervous too. They just don't, they're old school. They want to go see the property and all that good stuff. I found that most sellers are going to be honest with you when you ask them the questions about repairs. Ask them everything from, hey, does it have any foundation issues? Got any termite issues that you're aware of? And they're not sure. I budgeted in regardless. I put a big budget in for that kind of stuff. If they don't know if it has old cast iron drains, they don't know the age of the AC, I budget a full replacement at that point. So it's just getting good on the phone and getting good at renovation numbers. That's the biggest thing. Learn how to give a quick offer.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people know about all these little intricate nuances with repairs and inspections and things that need to be done, right? Like the roof looks great, right? But it's 25 years old or something like that. Like you don't know about these little things that you're going to have to do later on that are going to add up, and and sellers don't know that. They just think they have the house and it's worth $1 million, but there's so many other things that have to go into it. And I love your efficiency, Henry. So something that you and I both do on a business standpoint is efficiency. I love making sure we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. Do we have it all? Execute, right? Like that's the whole idea. It's like, do we have everything in line to execute? And you have that same mentality. I think I still remember that post you had where you bought a mobile printer and it was like on the top of your car and you're just like, printing out the contract right here. And it's like coming out of the printer, and you're ready to hand it to the seller. And that's called being prepared, being efficient, having all the tools around you to make things like that happen. And I think that's just one of your specialties, is thinking ahead, being proactive, and having all those tools up front. And like you said, being able to talk to people even on the phone, being able to have that conversation with people, pick up the phone, talk to them, and making simple concepts come to life. I mean, that's a simple concept, just calling people and talking to them. And especially with marketing, right? That plays a role into marketing. But that whole efficiency thing is incredible. I think about that when we talked before about like how being efficient can be that deal breaker. Can you get everything together? What are your thoughts on that whole efficiency mindset?
It's incredibly important in this business. As competitive as it is right now in our industry, you'd better be very efficient. You better be fast. I can't tell you how many times I've beaten my competition because I was just faster than them. I knew what I was doing. I knew where my numbers needed to be, and bam, they had the contract in their hands and they signed. I mean, that was it. So efficiency is huge in this game. And that's going to improve over time. As you get experience, as you do more deals, that's going to improve. You're going to get better systems. You're going to modify how your systems talk to each other, and then how, your data. I mean, data is huge in what we do. You want to target only those people who are really more likely to sell a deal to you. So efficiency, I agree, is definitely big when it comes to your data, when it comes to your speed, how close you are on renovation numbers, where you need to be to make a profit, or, keep it as a rental property and still cash flow. I think the other thing too is your database, your CRM, which is your customer relationship management software that you use. Follow-up is big right now. You've probably got a lot of leads in your CRM that you need to follow with, but you don't, because you're too busy working on new deals, or you don't have a assistant or a team member to help you out with it. So as much as it's hard to overcome that mindset, having somebody else in your team to kind of start doing that follow up, that's an efficiency factor. Also, my wife helps me out with a lot of stuff now. I don't know if I told you, she quit teaching last year. She quit teaching. She joined me in the business, and she said, as much as you're making, I mean, you make my salary in a couple of deals. I'm like, yeah, it'd be great to have you. And I tell you, advice for you guys out there: teachers are hard workers. If you know kind of crap they deal with in the school system and what they get paid to do it, I tell you, having one on board with you, they are hard workers. They will work hard. She's driven. I mean, she's helped me immensely in this business. So talk about efficiency. It's going up. We're definitely a lot more efficient as a husband and wife team now. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. To increase that efficiency, the relationships factor is definitely a big part of that. Have multiple private lenders in your pocket, and pick the right one for the situation. How fast do you need the money? How much are they willing to lend you on the acquisition and the renovation cost? Relationships are going to play big into your efficiency. Also, how fast is your title company? How fast is your probate attorney? Al is definitely the fastest. So you hire him for that. So yeah, all those factors just play into it. There's so many different things that can play into how well oiled the machine is in your business.
For sure. I mean, you have to have the right pieces in place and know that things are going to get done. They're not going to take 6 months. They're not going to take a year, or if they do, at least somebody's communicating with you about why it's happening. What's the situation? Now you have a clearer picture of what's happening. But Henry, you talked about something interesting. Your wife was a teacher. She stopped doing teaching and now is full-time with you in the investing, right?
Yep.
That is very unique. That is different. That's actually another question that I would ask if it applies, which is building relationships with your own spouse and working together, building that partnership. That's tough. That's not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, you're with each other all the time. You're going on vacation with each other all the time. Your Saturdays and Sundays are together all the time. And now also the work side of it. How do you two deal with that? Like, not many people can separate that concept. Even at the dinner table, it's all about real estate, or you're on vacation, it's talking about real estate. Like, how do you separate the mentality hat about time with each other versus real estate time?
That's a great question. And the answer to that is you got to find the one that you love spending every single day with. I knew when we met, and that was, gosh, how long ago? Almost 18 years ago in March, we met and first started dating. We spent every single day together and we never got tired of each other. So that's how I knew. And it's still true to this day. And so I was like, she's an incredible partner having my business, my wife. I mean, I know I talked to other investors like, yeah, we'd kill each other. There's no way we can make it work.
Wow.
But no, I kind of knew from the first time we met that, after spending every single day together, I said, I just don't get tired of her. We love each other's company. We work really well together. Like, we just mesh really well together in every way. So there's always going to be frustrating moments, no matter who you partner with, no matter who you have a business partner with, because there's a learning curve, obviously, for somebody that's coming on board in your business. But once you get over that learning curve, she's a fast learner. She picked it up in a couple months, and she's doing stuff I've never done in the business before. So I'll give you an example. We bought our first manufactured home, and we had to get foundation certified with an engineer, and we had to install some tie downs to keep that thing anchored, for windstorms, hurricanes, that kind of stuff. So she pursued all that and got it all done. And I mean, that's something I'd never done. She took the bull by the horns on that one, got it all done. But I mean, it can work. It just depends on personality types, the drive, the motivation. Do you really love your spouse? You might not like them all the time, but you still love them and you can spend every day with them. I mean, we work well together. So it's a great relationship that we have, both personal and professional.
I even feel like she's even working on things, like you said, that you've never seen before, but I feel like there's a complementary factor in it too, right? Like, you're not on each other's toes. It's not clashing personalities, right? Like, I feel like that's a tag team. Like, you do this, I do this, let's tackle it together. So hard to find, especially with the spouse. I don't know. I'm not married, no kids, nothing like that. But like, you see it, right? Like, you hear stories about, spouses trying to work with each other, and it's like, in the beginning it's good, but then there's clashing. But it sounds like here it's it's a compliment. She likes doing what she's doing with all the tie downs and the mechanics in it. And you're like talking to the sellers. And I think April Giuliano and Mark Giuliano are like the same thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So hard to do, but they're totally different roles. April loves the marketing. Mark likes getting down in it. Totally different. So very unique. It's just, you don't hear it that often.
Right. It doesn't work for everybody. Not every couple would work well together, but I know some who do. I mean, Obi Dorsey, he was one of my first mentors on some stuff too. Him and Shelby work great together. I mean, they're a killer team. They kill it all the time. So um, it just depends on the couple and how well you complement each other, in the business side versus the personal side. I mean, it's gonna depend on the couple. But
Yeah.
we definitely mesh well together. I know, me and my wife.
Well, that now you can keep scaling the business that way, right?
Right.
Like you were
Yeah.
probably getting so busy before, but now you found you were doing four of a whole, and now you're doing 3/4. She's doing the 1/4. Now it's like two fourths, now 2/4, one half each, and that's great that you're doing so well with it. And now, Henry, one of the things that you wanted to talk about, we were talking over the break about these other things that you're really in tuned with. I think you recently started getting involved with private lending from an IRA or private lending from you personally. Um, I think you posted about that on Facebook about, hey, if you're interested, I'm kind of doing that. What is this whole private lending from an IRA thing, and how does it play with investors trying to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm not quite doing it yet, but I do borrow from others who are lending from their IRAs because they want to grow their retirements. Yeah, one of my private lenders loans out of her IRA on several of my flips or rentals. And she gets a great return every year as long as I'm borrowing from her, and she's building a retirement account, and all that profit is either tax deferred. I'm not sure if she has a Roth or not. It's either tax deferred or she pays her taxes and she doesn't have to pay taxes on anything that goes into a Roth. Um, so it's a really fabulous way for somebody to grow their retirement strictly passive. They don't have to worry about it. It's all about trust. You got to make sure you're investing with investors who know what they're doing. They're seasoned. They're not going to lose your money. They're actually going to make sure you get paid back. And so it helps to have the experience because I can look at a deal and tell you, yes, I'd lend on that or no, because you're overpaying for it and your renovation costs are way off. So it's a great way to passively build a retirement. I mean, I know in IRA investors are making 10, 12%, every single year, and that's just lending out their money. That's it.
Wow.
So yeah, there's not much to it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that was something you were kind of getting into, and you're watching everybody else do it, like the Glenn Friedmans of the
Yeah.
world, Kyles of the world. They're all kind of doing it, and there's a way to do it. I mean, you hear about the self-directed IRAs too, from all the New Views and Advantas. There's so many things you can do with your IRAs. But another thing you're a big proponent on the Facebook pages, on the Yellowbird pages, is how you've done many deals now where you get a business card, and I think it's like 0% interest, and there's more to that deal, there's more to that
Mm,
story, but you
yeah.
love this whole idea of the business card, and you get people reaching out and going, what, never heard about this before.
Yep.
What is this with the business card?
So I love sharing this because it's people just aren't educated. They just don't know what they don't know, right? So when I first got into real estate, I looked for ways of funding deals, right? My very first flip, I funded off of cash I pulled off of 0% interest credit cards. So some credit card companies will offer 0% interest, 0% APR in the first 12 to 18 months of you having that account open, right? Some of them will provide balance transfer checks that you can literally write for up to the credit limit you have on that card in cash, and you pay a 3% balance transfer fee is what they call that. So you can borrow $10,000 at 3% interest, and it's not ongoing interest. It's just 3% flat rate, or 2% or what, however much that card's charging. And so I pulled $100,000 off my first round of lines of credit cash. And I funded my first flip with that. Acquisition was $47,000. It was over in 32208. I put probably $14,000 into it. I was all into it for $61,000. put it on the MLS with my broker and mentor at the time. He was my mentor, so I gave him the listing, of course. And we sold it for $90,000. So I netted, after all closing costs, I netted $20,000 off of 0% interest credit card cash. Paid 3% for, say I paid 3% for that $60,000, you know, that's what, $1,800. So really, I paid $1,800 to make $20,000.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
I mean, come on now, you know, and that's not even my own money. So really it was an infinite return because I didn't even put my own cash into it. So when they say you really can invest with no money out of your pocket, you know, you really can. You really can. If you got great credit, leverage it. You know, if you got good relationships and lenders, leverage them. That's what it's all about.
What company is this? Is it like you're creating an LLC? Like, so people that are listening to this are thinking, wow, this is a great thing, but it's like, how do you do this? Is it create the LLC, then apply for the Visa, MasterCard company?
So I hired a consulting company. I paid them $9,000 to open me lines of credit for a year. And that's an intimidating number for a lot of people who don't invest in real estate, but it's not a lot once you've invested for so long. But $9,000 to learn how to open up a bunch of credit lines, how to pull cash out, and they walk you through everything, how to do it. They do it for you. So honestly, I had an LLC before I ever did this, but you don't need an LLC. I had excellent credit actually at the time. I had a 750 or 800 credit score. So I had great credit to leverage. So a lot of them were just open in my personal name. They weren't even open in my business name. I've got some business accounts now, which you can get a whole lot more credit that way. But honestly, I did them all in my personal name. They were all attached to me personally. And, so it's not required, but having an LLC will help later on, you know, having a longer established LLC, a longer shelf life, you know, they'll see that you've been in business longer, you know, they're going to probably more likely extend you credit because you're a lower risk and they see you bringing revenue in, all that good stuff. So, start it as soon as you can. Get that clock rolling.
Was there a limit? Was there a limit on like how much you can pull out from that credit card? Was there like 100,000, 200,000? What was that limitation or none?
I think my first round of credit was $125,000 on probably 10 different cards. So I could pull up to that amount off those cards. And of course, here's the kicker with that. Your credit score is going to go way down because it looks like you're utilizing a lot of credit. You're pulling a lot of cash out. You're using a lot more of your credit limit. So it's going to make your credit score go down. But as you do that over and over again, you borrow a bunch and then you pay it back off in 6 months or a year or whatever. You start looking like a rock star because you never missed any payments. Don't miss your payments. That's key. Don't ever miss any minimum payments. You do it again, then I had $250,000 in credit, you know, later on, did the same thing. And I'm only using half my credit limit this time instead of, 90% of it. So just keep renewing your credit, you know, every year or two, you know, and keep all your accounts open so that you've got more credit to utilize over time. Now I use maybe 5 to 10% of my total credit line that I have on renovations because I've got a lot more cash to play with now too. You know, as you build success, you build the cash, you build the credit, you're going to have a lot more money to play with. You don't have to leverage as much as your personal credit. And now you look like a rock star. And now everybody wants to lend to you now. So it comes with time. It's not an overnight thing. You don't get rich overnight. It comes with time, showing the success, documenting it, proving to others that you can do it, you know, proving your self-worth. And then they're going to want to do business with you. People start calling me now.
Yeah. And if anybody's interested in using this credit card or details on it, reach out to Henry about this, because I think there's one thing that it's out there versus you just like speaking about that it's out there, right? Like, even on the YouTube channel, I'm sure you have this, and then you post about it in the groups.
Yeah. And so the company, they can actually look it up. It's called Funding for Flipping. They're on Facebook. You can actually reach out to them and they'll walk you through how to do it.
Look at that. Look at that. Gems right there. Henry's always dropping gems. That's great because people want to know how they get started. I was even thinking while you were telling me that even if you started at 100,000, boy, you could pick up like 5 land deals. Like if they were 12 grand or 15 grand, you can get some land deals and do some flipping and, just find JWB or find the Kyles and they'll do the building and construction on it. You can just make your assignments or do your thing with the land. There's tons of opportunity.
Here's the beautiful thing too. If you've got the cash, if you can meet private lenders and build those relationships, some of them are going to lend you up to 90%, some maybe even 100% of the acquisition. So you just need to come up with the 10% of whatever it is that you're purchasing. right? If you're just going to wholesale it or wholesale it, put it right back on the market, you just need the 10% down. Your credit card cash solves that problem. Where you want to get the cash from, and now you got it. There you go.
Good to go. 0% down and
Yep.
0% interest. Just make sure you make the payments and you're all good to go.
That's it.
So Henry, this is all so valuable. I think so many people are going to watch this and go, wow, unlawful detainers, credit cards with 0% interest. What's this memorandum thing? There's so many things in the world of Henry that you've seen. In the world of deals, what have you found? And if it's probate, we'll talk about that, but definitely we're going to talk about probate at the end. If it's probate, what has been one of the biggest deal killers for you in the real estate world? And I get different answers. Lenders, appraisers, tenants won't let people in, just because people not responding to the contracts, so many different things. But what is that biggest deal killer to you?
Really, it boils down to, man, it's a tough one. It deals down to price and title issues. Title issues can wreck a deal. It might look like a good deal until you get the title commitment back and you see $500,000 in judgments. You know one, I've sent it to you. $500,000 in judgments on a property that's not worth more than $225,000. That's a deal killer. I don't want to even waste my time on it if those judgments are going to stick to the title. The other one might be people just not responding after they said, yes, I'll go forward with your offer. And then they disappear and you never hear from them again, and they never sold it either. I've looked, I followed up a year or two later and it's still not sold. So they told me, yes, they signed a contract. And that was one we actually filed a memorandum on because we had money invested into it and they haven't responded since. Something happened, not sure, but those can be deal killers. If you don't have the seller there to sign a deed, you can't make it move forward, so those are deal killers, unfortunately. But it happens. Title issues, non-responsive sellers, and then obviously price is everything in real estate. We're all here to make money. We need to buy a deal at a good price to make it profitable for us, whether we're going to rent it, whether we're going to flip it or wholesale it, whatever we're going to do with it. There's got to be some kind of profit. We all need to eat at some point. So, that's really it. Those simple answers, those are the deal killers, biggest ones for us.
Yeah, especially those judgments when they're so high and they don't want to have anything to do with them. And the title insurance, right, won't say, hey, what's the basis for the quiet title? And it's like, because it shouldn't be there, or it's so big that everybody wants to get the deal done. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to really find out all of these answers, especially with title. And yeah, there's title issues that come up, whether it's probate or whether it's maybe the taxes owed. It's just so much taxes owed and the nuisance liens, right? Like you see the nuisance and county demolition liens that come up from time to time. Those can be deal killers too. Especially if you're trying to get that deal wholesaled or buy it, you have to negotiate those down. They won't. Sometimes the county won't do it unless you do the whole rebate program. But yeah, I totally get it. The title is a big thing. That's why before I work on probates, I always want to see that title, right? Is there equity? Is it what we think it is? Right? Because the seller may say, oh yeah, I own the property, but you find out that mom died 10 years ago. It's like, well, you don't own the property. You may be inheriting the property. So finding out those things is super important. So speaking of probate, for one of our final topics, I'm going to be on Clubhouse tonight and I'm going to be doing a Clubhouse room every week, I think, on probate, because it seems to be a popular topic. And that is, solving some of these puzzles and solving some of these issues when you come across that probate that pops up on title, or maybe you've talked to the seller and they said, mom lived here, dad lived here, they died, trying to figure out all of that whole situation about what to do. What is probate in the world of Henry? How do you approach those situations? Because I tell people all the time, it's just another real estate transaction with a puzzle. But how do you tackle it? How do you approach it from like the investor perspective?
Well, I try to ask a lot of those questions up front with sellers, like, how hey, look, I see some of these things in the chain of title, a quit claim, there was an estate, is there anybody else on title or anybody has ownership rights to this property? We need to know now, because if we don't, we find out later, it's going to hold up the closing, So I try to be proactive with that stuff. Some, not everybody's honest. So some sellers might not tell you because they think they can get all the proceeds. You know, it's funny when there's money involved, family members act funny. You know, they act a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, they think we need to tell him, but you know, it's going to show up on the title if they're entitled to it. Right. So I try to be proactive about that stuff. And, you know, a lot of times, sometimes they'll tell us, sometimes they won't, you know, it just depends on the person you're dealing with who contacted you. And so, you know, that's when I hire Al to come and look at the title commitment. Al's a great guy to hire for this. I mean, he was the guy to hire for the probate stuff, because he'll find out and give you an answer, you know, as to whether there's enough equity to pursue that deal, depending on how many people are involved, the cost of doing the probate, all that good stuff. So that's really, I mean, that's really all you can do. Ask the question and then hire a good attorney for that to take a look.
And there's so many puzzles to it, right? You have to ask the right questions, you know, the spouses, the kids, is there a will? There's so many different things that you don't think about, because many times investors will never see a probate, but then there's ones that find it on a daily basis because they'll go after like the tax delinquents, the call to action. They'll find the pre-foreclosures. So what happens at a pre-foreclosure and a tax deed? They can't pay, they forgot to pay, or they're dead. So then you find the probate, right? And so when you find those things, it's a matter of ask those questions, find out as much as you can, and then there may be a way to tackle it. It doesn't matter. It could be 10 people. Maybe all 10 people are on board, right? Seen a few of those where it's just 10 heirs, maybe 2 that died before the main person. Then you have nieces and nephews, or you have children of them. It gets crazy. But I think, Henry, you have seen the big picture now in the last year about how, look, if you can find all of this stuff up front, efficiency, right? Find it up front now. Is it possible? Is it not possible? What is the creative solution? Is there no creative solution? At least it's time evaluation for you, and then you can move on or tackle it, right? Like, get it.
That's right.
That's all it's about. That's all it's about. So, Henry, it's been a blast. I love talking to you about all of this stuff. You have so much stuff to talk about. I'm going to have you back in the studio when this whole thing back here is not white, but it's got shelves and it's got lights and it's got cameras. I have about 4 to 5 cameras in here that have different angle shots. It'd be really cool.
Awesome.
So can't wait to have you back. And maybe we'll bring the team. You and your wife will have the whole team here to talk about everything. Maybe you'll have stories and who knows, you know, the whole Henry Angeli crew in person in the studio. So Henry, thanks so much again for having the show with me today. I loved it. And everybody's going to take something from it. If they want to get a hold of you, where can they find you, and who do you want reaching out to you?
Yeah. So best way is my website, which is www.henrybuyshomes.com. You should be able to see it right there. There you go. In the virtual background. You can also call that number on the website, which is 904-878-2473. You know, if you got a property to sell, any sellers basically in Northeast Florida, even if you don't live in the area, you know, we are buying in Duval County, Nassau County, Clay County, and St. Johns counties. That includes like all of Jacksonville, you know, Yulee, Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island, St. Augustine. It's a very big area. Orange Park, all the way down to Middleburg and Keystone Heights. So we have a very large territory that we will service sellers on, do listings for, or buy it outright from them. So really, those are the best ways to reach me: the website and that phone number on the website. If you got something you want to email me, also any wholesalers, you know, you can send it to my email, henry@henrybuyshomes.com. That's HENRY@henrybuyshomes.com.
Especially now that you're doing the buy and hold. So that definitely is who you're looking for.
There you go.
And people are moving from California, New York. They're all coming down here. So people that watch this that's going to be on the YouTube channel, I'm sure you'll post it on the channel, all on the Facebook feed. They'll see you out there and they'll say, wait, who's Henry? Like, he's a seasoned investor in Florida. Like, I'm new to the market. Now, you know, there's definitely a connection, because Henry understands the memorandums, the credit cards, all of these weird title issues. So you got his contact. We'll make sure we have your social links, Henry. It'll be on the bottom. If you're watching this video, it should be on the bottom for people to click. But Henry, it's been a blast. I can't wait to have you back. Thanks again so much for being on the Al Nicoletti Show.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I loved it. It was an honor.
All right, everybody. If you want more content like this, make sure you check out the Al Nicoletti YouTube channel and the Al Nicoletti Facebook page and now business page. There's going to be content on probate, quiet title partitions, and of course, the amazing podcast with Henry Angeli. It's going to be all over there. It's going to be at a great time. There's tons of other content with podcasts from different guests, Pat Flynn, Ron LeGrand, Whitney Ritchie. It's all out there. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel, and I will see you next time on the Al Nicoletti Show. Take care.